What happens when a self-made catering CEO walks into his own kitchen disguised as a temp cook and tastes more than just the food? Isaac Heller stood in the parking lot of his fifth catering location, breathing in the smell of fried oil and fresh herbs from the vent fans overhead. He tugged at the collar of the second-hand polo shirt he bought for this. The name tag read Ian. His beard was gone. His usually thick brown hair had been buzzed close. Colored contact lenses dulled his green eyes into muddy brown. Even his voice was a little raspier than usual after practicing it all week. No one here had met him before. None. Not about the food. The food was always solid. It was the people, cold service, late arrivals. One client said the staff looked like they hated being there. Another said a server rolled her eyes during a wedding toast. Isaac's stomach turned at the thought. He built this company from scratch, just him, a truck, and a dream of making catered food that didn't taste like cardboard. He remembered scrambling to set out trays in rented community halls, sweating over last-minute changes, smiling through exhaustion because at least he believed in what he was doing. He hadn't worked a shift in 2 years. Now he was going to see what had changed. The kitchen buzzed as he stepped inside. No one looked up. A woman in a hairnet pointed toward the prep station without a word. A tall man with a clipboard walked by muttering about another useless temp. Isaac just nodded and grabbed an apron from the hook. The head chef, a sharp-eyed guy in his 40s named Darnell, introduced himself with a grunt. "Hope you know how to hold a knife, temp." "I can manage," Isaac said. "Good, peel those carrots, then dice 'em. Uniform size, you mess it up, it slows us all down." Isaac got to work. He didn't mind the pressure. It felt good, real. But the tension in the air wasn't what he remembered from his early years. People moved fast, but no one smiled. Orders were barked. Mistakes were cursed at, and no one offered help. An hour in, a younger chef, maybe late 20s, came in with a crate of fresh herbs and tomatoes. He was humming. Actually humming. Isaac blinked. No one else in this place had made a sound that wasn't irritated. The guy's name tag read Caleb. "You knew?" Caleb asked, setting the crate down. "Yeah," Isaac said. "Ian." "Cool, I'm Caleb. Watch your fingers with that peeler, it sticks sometimes. Want me to show you the safer way?" Isaac nodded, surprised. "Sure." Caleb pulled up beside him, demonstrating a cleaner way to peel and dice. He worked fast, but his tone was easy. "I don't like seeing busted knuckles. We've had enough of those in this kitchen." Isaac noticed something else. Caleb's station was spotless. His knives were sharp and neatly laid out. He even wiped down the counter when he finished prep, something no one else bothered with. "You always this, upbeat?" Isaac asked, half joking. Caleb shrugged. "I mean, it's food. People are gonna eat this at weddings, graduations, funerals, big moments. Might as well put some heart in it, right?" Isaac stared at him. Caleb turned away before he noticed. Later that afternoon, the team loaded everything into 2 vans for a corporate event. Isaac rode in one. Caleb was in the other. The van reeked of garlic and burned rice. The driver, a guy named Kenny, kept cursing at traffic and muttering about idiot planners messing up the schedule. At the venue, they set up fast. Isaac kept his head down, helping unload trays and checking temps. He noticed Caleb again, talking gently to an older woman who looked like the event host. She was panicking about the table layout. Caleb knelt beside her, calmly showing her the plan and offering to adjust it. She visibly relaxed. "Your guy over there's good," Isaac said to the on-site manager. The manager, a thin man named Vince, rolled his eyes. "Caleb, he's too soft, spends more time talking than working, always helping people who don't tip." Isaac frowned. Back in the kitchen that night, dishes clattered. Everyone looked drained. Vince walked in, clapping his hands. "Tomorrow we've got the Regan wedding. Big one, no screw-ups. I want everyone here by 7 sharp, no excuses. Someone groaned. Caleb raised his hand. Actually, can I come in an hour early? I noticed the garlic oil we use for the lamb is running low. Can prep a replacement batch. Vince gave him a blank look. Why? You don't get paid extra for that. I just want it to be right, Caleb said softly. Vince laughed. Suit yourself. Later, when most had cleared out, Isaac found Caleb still wiping down the prep tables. You always do more than you have to, Isaac asked. Caleb shrugged. I guess. I just think food matters. Doesn't have to be fancy, but it should be made like you care. Isaac leaned against the counter, watching him. You ever think about running a kitchen? Caleb smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. Nah, management here's tight. Promotions go to whoever's been here the longest, not who's best. Isaac felt that hit. He left that night with more questions than answers, but one thing was clear. He needed to come back. The following morning, Isaac arrived earlier than even Caleb. The kitchen lights were still off when he unlocked the side door with the temp keycard he'd been issued. He flipped the switches and stood for a moment, taking in the silence. The stainless steel surfaces looked colder without the bustle. The floor tiles still held a faint stickiness from last night's rush, and a pile of aprons sat in a bin near the sink, unwashed. He set his things down and got to work. There was no reason to pretend to be helpless again. He started with the garlic oil Caleb had mentioned. The pantry inventory was worse than he expected. Half-used containers, unsealed bags, and a few spices that had hardened into clumps. He made a mental note to inspect the supply chain later quietly. He was halfway through roasting garlic when the back door creaked open. Caleb stepped in, rubbing sleep from his eyes, his backpack slung low on one shoulder. You beat me, he said, surprised. Didn't sleep much, Isaac said without turning. Figured I'd get ahead. Caleb gave a dry laugh and hung his bag on the hook. Careful, keep doing that, they'll expect it. Isaac glanced at him. They already do. That earned a quiet nod. Caleb washed up and joined him at the station. They worked in tandem, saying little. It was a kind of rhythm Isaac hadn't felt since the early days, the unspoken coordination between two people who cared about the outcome more than the credit. As the rest of the crew trickled in, the kitchen's hum returned. Pans clanged. Flames hissed. Voices rose and fell, sharp and clipped, never warm. A new face, a young woman with a sleeve tattoo and a limp in her right leg, was prepping garnishes. Isaac hadn't seen her the day before. She moved carefully, favoring her left side, but her knife work was quick and clean. Who's that? He asked Caleb between tasks. Renaa, she only does weekends, was a line cook at a steakhouse until she tore her ACL. Rehab's slow, but she's solid. Just don't ask her to lift anything heavy. Isaac nodded. Why's she only part-time? Management said full-time's not in the budget. Same story for a lot of folks. The breakfast shift passed in a blur. By midday, the kitchen was packed with trays being assembled for the Regan wedding. Isaac noticed Vince hovering near the walk-in, barking at anyone who got in his way but never lifting a hand himself. He took a long call near the office door, gesturing wildly, then disappeared without explanation. Around 2, a server named Liana came in, red-faced and out of breath. She looked like she'd run from the bus stop. Her apron was wrinkled, and her hairline glistened with sweat. You're late again, Darnell said, not looking up from the lamb he was carving. I know, my sitter canceled. Tried. Save it, you miss another shift, I'm cutting your hours. Liana nodded once, jaw tight, and headed to the back to grab her tray. No one said anything. Isaac kept working, but his hands slowed. He caught Caleb's eye across the table. Caleb looked like he wanted to say something, but didn't. The team loaded into vans again just after 3. The wedding was at a vineyard about 30 minutes out, elegant, high profile. the kind of client they used to build their name. Isaac rode in the same van as Caleb and Renaa, who sat with her leg stretched awkwardly under a tray rack. "You good?" he asked her. "I'll manage," she said. "Just need to keep weight off it when we unload." The vineyard was sunlit and crisp, with rows of tables under open tents and a small string quartet tuning up near the ceremony area. The client, a woman named Dana with a clipboard and a Bluetooth headset, was pacing near the serving station. "We're behind," she said without greeting. "The florals arrived late, and the bride's mother is threatening to move the reception inside. I need your team to be flawless." Vince, who had apparently reappeared just before arrival, clapped his hands once. "You heard her. Move." The setup was frantic. Renaa nearly slipped on a damp patch but caught herself on a cart. Caleb stepped in to help her balance the trays. "Don't touch her tray," Vince snapped from across the tent. "She can handle it." Isaac froze. Caleb didn't move. "She's limping," he said. "If she drops it, we all suffer." Vince stalked over, voice low but sharp. "Do you want to take her shift then? Because I'll swap you out right now." Caleb looked away, jaw clenched. Isaac didn't speak, not yet. Dinner service began just after 5. The food was plated precisely. Guests smiled at the presentation, and the bride's father gave them a thumbs up during the main course. But in the prep tent, tensions boiled. Liana dropped a serving spoon, and it clattered loudly. Vince rolled his eyes. "You've got butterfingers now, too." "I said sorry." "Not good enough. Go help with trash. You're off the floor." Isaac stepped forward. "She's been solid all night." Vince turned slowly, eyes narrowing. "Didn't ask you, new guy." Isaac kept his tone even. "I've been watching. She's doing fine." "Then maybe you're not watching close enough." Caleb stepped between them. "He's right. Liana's been pulling extra since shift start. She's covering stations Vince hasn't even noticed." "Is this a union meeting now?" Vince snapped. "Because I don't remember asking for a vote." Isaac said nothing. He stepped back, let the moment pass, but he wasn't going to forget it. Cleanup was slow. Renaa sat at the edge of the van, massaging her knee. Caleb packed the last of the trays, quiet, eyes focused. As they pulled out of the vineyard, headlights sweeping across the rows of grapevines, Isaac leaned toward Caleb. "Does this happen often?" "The yelling, yes. The taking credit for work he didn't do, all the time." "What about the others, Darnell, the rest?" Caleb hesitated. "Darnell's old school, keeps his head down. He's burned out, but he won't say anything. The others, most of them don't stay long enough to care." Isaac stared out the window for a while. When they got back, he lingered in the parking lot after everyone else had gone. The night air was cooler now, breezy. He pulled out his phone and opened the internal HR dashboard, something he hadn't looked at in weeks. He scrolled through staff turnover rates. 3 times higher than normal at this location. Exit notes: no room for growth, hostile management, overworked. He didn't sleep again that night. The next morning, he showed up 30 minutes early. Caleb was already inside, prepping onions. "You don't stop, do you?" Isaac asked. Caleb smiled faintly. "Somebody's got to care." Isaac stepped beside him. What if someone with a little more pull started caring too? Caleb looked at him, puzzled. "You mean Darnell?" Isaac held his gaze. "No, I mean higher." Before Caleb could respond, Vince barged in through the back, already shouting about a delivery delay. Isaac didn't look away. He was done watching. Isaac arrived 2 hours before the next scheduled event. The parking lot was still empty, and the only light came from a security lamp over the back entrance. He unlocked the door with the temp badge, stepped inside, and stood for a moment in the dark kitchen. The hum of the refrigeration units was steady. He flipped on a single overhead strip and walked to the dry storage room. He started pulling inventory sheets, comparing them to the last 3 weeks' deliveries. The numbers didn't add up. Several items were understocked, yet invoices showed they'd been delivered and signed for. A case of imported saffron had been marked as received last week, an ingredient far too expensive to be used regularly, and none of the recent menus called for it. He checked the walk-in. No saffron, no trace of it ever being there. He took a photo of the invoice and logged the discrepancy in a private note on his phone. He'd have to pull security footage later, quietly. Voices echoed down the hallway. The day shift was trickling in. Isaac stepped back into the main kitchen, already tying his apron. Darnell walked through the swinging door, rubbing one eye with the back of his wrist. "You're early again," he said without looking up. "Trying to keep up," Isaac replied, moving toward the prep station. Darnell muttered something under his breath and started checking the burners. Renaa arrived next, her gait slower than the day before. She didn't speak as she put on gloves and began washing herbs. Isaac noticed she had a knee brace on now, thicker than the one before. She worked in silence, her expression unreadable. As the kitchen filled, Isaac slipped into the back office when no one was looking. The computer was old, the monitor flickering slightly as it booted up. He typed in his override credentials, bypassing the default login. Within minutes, he had access to the security archives. He queued up the footage from the afternoon the saffron was marked delivered. The loading dock camera showed the delivery truck arriving. A kitchen assistant signed the clipboard. Boxes were wheeled inside. But then, after 20 minutes, Vince appeared on screen. He walked into the storage room, emerged 5 minutes later with a personal duffel bag. He left through the staff exit. The bag looked heavy. Isaac sat back in the chair, the air in the room suddenly dry. He exported the clip to a flash drive he'd brought, removed it, and shut everything down. Back in the kitchen, trays of hors d'oeuvres were being assembled. Isaac joined Caleb at the far station. Caleb nodded toward the pastry cart. "We're short on the mini quiches. Again. I flagged it last week, but we keep getting fewer than ordered." Isaac glanced at the tray. "Who handles the final count?" "Vince. He checks everything before it's loaded." Isaac didn't respond. He moved to help finish the garnish. Caleb glanced at him sideways. "You all right? You seem different today." Isaac kept his hands moving, just paying closer attention. Caleb ran a hand through his hair and looked away. "Good luck with that." By early afternoon, the kitchen was sweltering. The air conditioning struggled against the heat of the ovens and the press of bodies. Liana arrived late again, apologizing quickly and diving into prep without removing her jacket. The fatigue in her face had deepened, but no one mentioned it. No one asked. Vince returned just before the vans were scheduled to leave. He swept in with a coffee in hand, sunglasses still on, and started issuing instructions without stopping to check if anyone was listening. "We're splitting the team today," he said. "Half goes to the banquet downtown, the rest to the benefit gala in Eastwood. Caleb, you're with me. Ian, you're downtown." Isaac didn't argue. He watched as Vince gave Caleb a stack of event notes, then left the room again. The drive downtown was uneventful. The venue was a hotel ballroom, polished but impersonal. Isaac helped unload the gear, working alongside Renaa and 2 junior staffers he hadn't met before. The hotel coordinator met them in the lobby, tight-lipped and clearly in a rush. "We're running behind. Can you have the first course ready in 20 minutes?" "We'll make it happen," Isaac said. The team moved fast. Renaa worked through the pain, never asking for help. Isaac quietly shifted heavier trays off her station when she wasn't looking. The servers moved in and out with practiced efficiency. The guests began arriving, and the buzz of conversation filled the air. Halfway through the main course, the head of hotel catering approached. I need to speak to your manager, she said, arms crossed. Isaac wiped his hands. He's at another event. Well, then who's supervising here? Isaac held her gaze. Yam, for now. She hesitated, then lowered her voice. One of the guests has a severe shellfish allergy. Your menu listed shrimp in the risotto, but someone just told me it was omitted last minute. Is that true? Isaac nodded. We substituted roasted mushrooms. The client made a late change. And your team knows not to cross-contaminate. Yes, the prep station was isolated. Separate pans, separate spoons. She stared at him a moment, then nodded. Thank you. As she walked away, Renee approached. What was that about? Just a menu check, he said. All good. Back at the kitchen that night, Vince was already there, leaning against the counter, talking too loudly about how smoothly the gala went. Caleb stood nearby, silent, arms crossed. Isaac walked in, peeled off his gloves, and approached them. You leave early from the gala, he asked Vince. Vince didn't blink, had another meeting across town. Why? You were supposed to supervise. I did, then I left. Everything went fine. Isaac stepped closer, lowering his voice. You've been signing off on deliveries that never make it to the pantry. Vince laughed. Excuse me. Saffron, olive oil, imported cheeses, all marked received, none used, and you're the only one with authorization to log the invoices. Caleb looked up, stunned. Are you accusing me of theft? Vince said, louder now. I'm saying I saw footage. You left with a duffel bag that didn't come in with you. Darnell stepped into the room, drawn by the raised voices. So did Renee. Vince's face turned red. You're a temp, you don't get to make accusations. I'm not a temp, Isaac said. My name is Isaac Heller. I own this company. The room fell silent. Caleb's eyes widened. Renee froze mid-step. Darnell looked like he'd been struck with cold water. Vince's mouth opened, closed. You're what? I built this company from a single truck. You've been running this kitchen into the ground, cutting corners, stealing inventory, abusing my staff. I don't know what you think you saw. I saw enough. Vince took a step back. Look, if there's been confusion, I'm sure we can work it out. No need to make a scene. Isaac pointed to the door. You're done, you'll be contacted by legal. Vince didn't move. Darnell stepped forward. He said you're done. Vince looked at him, then Caleb, then the rest of the room. No one spoke. No one stood with him. He left without another word. Isaac turned to the team. There are going to be changes, starting now. He looked at Renee. You're not working another shift until a doctor clears your leg. I can't afford. You'll be paid full rate until then. He turned to Liana, who had come in from the prep room. We're setting up formal childcare support. No one should lose hours because they're trying to be a parent. She blinked, unsure whether to believe him. Isaac looked at Darnell last. You've been keeping this place alive, but you need help. Starting tomorrow, you'll have another sous chef and a raise. Darnell nodded once. Finally, he turned to Caleb. You were the only one who tried to make this place better. You led without being asked. If you're willing, I'd like you to take over as kitchen manager. Caleb was speechless. I'm serious, Isaac said. You've earned it. Caleb swallowed, then nodded. All right. Isaac looked around the room. This kitchen's not perfect, but it's going to get better, and I won't be disappearing again. He walked back to the prep station, untied his apron, and began washing his hands. No one said anything for a long time. Then Caleb stepped beside him and turned on a second sink. They washed in silence, side by side. The Monday after Vince was removed, Isaac returned to the kitchen wearing his regular clothes for the first time in weeks. No apron, no alias, just himself a little older, a little more tired, but clearer than he had been in a long time. He pushed open the back door and stepped into a room that still smelled like burnt onions and fryer oil, but the tension in the air had shifted. The usual sharp clatter of trays was there, but the silence between noises no longer felt loaded. It was just quiet, focused. Darnell stood by the prep table, reviewing a printed schedule. His sleeves were rolled up and a thermos sat untouched beside him. When he saw Isaac, he gave a small nod. "You're here early," Isaac said. "Didn't sleep," Darnell replied. "Was rewriting the week's rotation. We're short 2 runners and a server." Isaac stepped beside him. "Let's shift a few events to cold drop-off. Give the team some breathing room." Darnell hesitated. "Clients won't like that." "Better they get honest delivery than a burnt-out crew and bad service." Darnell didn't argue. In the days after the reveal, Isaac hadn't made sweeping declarations. He made phone calls. He met with HR. He listened. When the regional team asked how he wanted to handle Vince's role, he didn't name a replacement. He said, "We're not patching holes anymore. We're redoing the framework." That morning, Caleb arrived looking exhausted but alert. His first day as acting kitchen manager had started with back-to-back calls from vendors asking why old agreements were suddenly being scrutinized. Isaac had sat in on the first one and let Caleb handle the rest. "Morning," Caleb said, setting down a clipboard. "The dairy order's coming late, again. Called the supplier and they said Vince used to give them flex days. Told them that's over." Isaac nodded. "If they don't tighten up, we switch vendors. No favors, just standards." Caleb flipped through his notes. Also, Renaa texted. She had a follow-up this morning, but she wants to stop by later, just to check in. She'll be on the clock when she does. Caleb didn't respond, but he looked down briefly, then back up. "You know she's worried about keeping her spot." "She won't lose it." As the morning prep started, Isaac walked the line slowly, watching how people moved. There was still tension, but it had changed shape. Eyes weren't darting toward the exits. They were watching each other, quietly sinking. Liana arrived with a small lunch cooler and a folded sweater in her arms. She clocked in, gave a cautious wave to Caleb, then got to work folding napkins for the gala that evening. Isaac helped carry over serving trays from the storage room, placing them on the long prep table. "How's your daughter?" he asked. Liana blinked. "She had a fever yesterday, but it broke. I got her a new book set. She's on the second one already." "You have someone watching her today." "My neighbor's daughter. She's reliable. I can work the full shift." Isaac pulled a folded paper from his back pocket and handed it to her. "That's a form for childcare reimbursement. It's not a fix-all, but it'll help." Liana stared at it. "This isn't real, is it?" "It's overdue," Isaac said. "Just fill it out and drop it with HR. No fuss." She nodded slowly, then returned to folding. In the afternoon, Renaa arrived in a loose hoodie and compression leggings, her brace still visible but smaller now. She walked in carefully, holding a stack of paperwork. "Doctor says I'm 2 weeks from light duty," she said, handing the papers to Caleb. "Shouldn't be here, but I wanted to make sure you didn't replace me with some culinary prodigy." "You trained half this kitchen," Caleb said. "We'd be lucky to find someone who could fill your shoes." Isaac looked up from the schedule he was reviewing. "I'd like to bring you in part-time as soon as your doctor clears it. Not on your feet, just training and supervision. You've got experience we need." Renaa lowered her bag. "You sure? I'm not exactly polished." "We don't need polished," Isaac said. "We need people who give a damn." She exhaled, then smiled. "Then yeah, I'm in." That night's event was a benefit dinner for a nonprofit that supported youth music programs. The menu was plated service, 4 courses, no substitutions. High pressure, high visibility. Isaac rode in the van this time not to monitor, but to support. He helped carry the flatware, unloaded linens, and double-checked the burner fuel. Caleb led the kitchen team, issuing quiet, precise instructions. Darnell managed timing. Liana coordinated with the servers. By the time the first course went out, the rhythm had found itself. No shouting, no scrambling, just execution. At the end of the night, as the last tray was packed and the ballroom emptied out, a woman from the nonprofit approached the team. She was in her 50s, wore a navy suit, and had a tired but kind smile. "I've worked with 5 caterers in the last 2 years," she said. "None of them listened the way you all did tonight. The food was excellent, but the service, that's what made it different." Isaac started to respond, but Caleb beat him to it. "We're rebuilding some things," Caleb said, wiping his hands on his apron. "But we're here for the long run." Back at the kitchen, Isaac stayed behind after most of the team went home. He sat at the office desk, Vince's old desk, and looked out through the small glass pane in the door. The prep tables were clean, the burners were off, the floor had been mopped. He pulled up the staffing dashboard on the computer. The turnover rate hadn't changed much yet, but he wasn't expecting miracles. What mattered was what came next. He drafted a message to the other 4 kitchen locations. Not a reprimand, not a lecture, just a request. He wanted them to meet their people, not through reports or performance logs, but through shifts, through conversations, through real work. He ended the message with a line he hadn't expected to write. "If you haven't stood beside them, you don't know them." He hit send. As he stood to leave, he paused by the exit. There was a small handwritten note taped to the edge of the doorframe. It hadn't been there earlier. It said, "Thanks for seeing us." There was no signature, just the words. He left it there. Outside, the night was quiet. The heat from earlier had broken, and a soft breeze stirred the leaves near the loading dock. Isaac didn't rush to his car. He stood a moment longer, breathing it in. The company had changed, not overnight, not completely. But it had started, and this time he wasn't walking away.